recently read a blog post of mine from 2019, which is sometimes not a good thing to do, but it was not long after I quit my job, and it was clear that I was riddled with self-doubt, some fear, some excitement at this new sort of liminal space that I was going into, and I was also very worried about what people would think, story of my life. So, you know, I look back and think, why? Most people were actually excited for me, and those that were a bit sniffy, I thought, well, I don't actually give a fuck about you, but they still, sort of snuck into my brain, kind of rent free, and that self doubt that I had lasted a good while into doing my new stuff. I was managing a short lived band, and I the short-lived part had nothing to do with me, honestly. I started doing this podcast. I started then doing some graphic design for the zine, and it's definitely eased up so much. I've started doing some video work, and then I've just recently redesigned a band's website. So I think looking back, ultimately the thrill of doing this kind of stuff was too powerful a draw for the self-doubt to really be the winner. Although it wasn't sort of plain sailing. I first met my amazing friend and today's guest, Lars Wolfshield, when they were, amongst other things, managing I'm going to call them like experimental punk band, Pleasure Venom. And, we've become close friends, from that period onwards, and done some amazing trips together here in the UK, in Europe, and, their current city, of Austin. And when Lars told me that, the calling to actually create music instead of managing musicians was getting so strong, I realized there was a fair bit of symmetry to our journeys, reigniting the classical training, having some creative calling, but also having this sort of uncertainty and, kind of like a bit of anxiety around it. Yeah, for me, returning to play my cello in front of people seems light years away. Lars has really gone full throttle into their new venture called Symmetry with their partner and my good mate TaSz Trebuchet. In fact, Symmetry's debut album, The Canary, will be out in the world by the time you listen to this episode. In fact, it's out tomorrow as we're recording this. But it's a wonderful. I'm going to call it like a handbook for today's world. Where we're subject to almost endless liminality, one that explores the kind of the dystopia of the world today and brings together the light and the dark, the hope and the hopeless, and soothing and unnerving. And Lars's really beautiful celestial voice is layered, sort of alongside Tazz's tender beats, which are kind of quite subversive as well, and obviously his synths, as well as the exquisitely sort of saturated and distressed visuals. If you haven't checked it out, just go for it and have a look. So, Lars, great to see you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
It feels weird now, sort of doing a podcast when we've just kind of been, when we've been mates for so long. But this is
Yeah.
a kind of great time to kind of do it. Obviously, with the album coming out and seeing this almost like as a sort of, I don't know, kind of like a sort of first stage of your kind of creative journey, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll try not to tell too many inside jokes that nobody
That
understands.
nobody understands. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I know when I always ask Justin Pearson this question, like, how's it going? He always like says back, "Oh, well, that's a pretty loaded question."
Yeah, it really is.
So given what's going on in the world today, but we'll go on to like safer territory. I mean, the album's coming out tomorrow. How are you kind of feeling now that it's imminent?
I'm kind of like, whoa, that's tomorrow.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel prepared and I
Yeah.
feel ready and excited. And we've done some pre-sales of the record and
Mm,
it's been received well so far. And I'm just very proud of it. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm super happy to finally be able to share it and to share the artwork. And
Yeah.
we're also releasing the Atmos mixes,
Oh yeah.
which I really hope people will listen to because it just adds this
Mm,
incredible dimension of sound that just takes it to a whole different level. Like there's certain synth sounds that sound like helicopters, like circling your head, and like all sorts of really cool little things coming
Yeah.
in from all directions. I'm obsessed with Atmos now. It just changes the whole experience of listening to music. And
Yeah.
our engineer Charles Godfrey is like
Mm.
the wizard of Atmos.
Because
So
you've worked with Charles quite a lot, haven't you? I mean, I think basically been with you from the off.
yeah, we started working with him pretty early on, and he's engineered every song that we've
Yeah.
released as Jet Cemetery. So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, and also, like I said said in the intro, the like the visuals are a sort of strong part of what you do and what you're about.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, yeah, that kind of extra dimension in the sound as well
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
gives
we
it,
do. We want to capture those visuals, and it is kind of it's post-apocalyptic, but it's also like retro in that we use a lot of imagery from the World Wars. And
mm,
yeah, and we've incorporated like, brutalist architecture and obviously old jets and
mm,
kind of aviation themes. And
yeah,
we just, we both actually have, were raised in kind of a military
mm,
background in the US,
yeah,
which is, our parents, my parents, uh, kind of were already starting to get away from that,
mm,
when they were raising me. But TaSz's family, they were, a lot of them were military, Air Force
mm,
and Army. And so we both were raised kind of with just this duality of like, especially in the Bush era, um,
yeah, yeah,
like just this duality of, oh, there's all this patriotism and then also this like budding realization among the youth that this is a cover up, this is weird,
yeah,
this is empire doing this, and just this bizarre dichotomy of I went to a military school, so being
mm,
around all these like weird patriotic people
wow, yeah,
and just being an artist and just not resonating with that, but still having to wear a military uniform.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and so it is a weird thing about not just the US, a lot of countries,
well,
where
yeah,
this patriotism is ingrained in us. And so it is like an examination of that. And
yeah.
yeah,
I remember when I was a kid. I must have been. I mean, as early as I can remember, maybe first sort of memories of this kind of like sort of patriotism and how this sort of sticks with you and also shapes you. There was one thing. There was the kind of royal wedding of 1980. What was it? 81 was Prince Charles, who's now the king. King Charles
right.
married Diana. And there was
Hmm.
just like this sort of like wave of patriotism across the UK. And I
Hmm.
remember it was like me and my dad were just kind of like, I don't fucking get this, and you feel a real kind of outlier amongst, even back then, which is that's like 40 odd years, this kind of flag waving. And then there was like Falklands War, and again, similar kind of thing of, sort of patriotism. So that I can appreciate, that growing up in that environment for you, like it has this, where it's all around you, yet you see what's wrong with it.
Right, right.
It's it's a
Yeah,
tough thing to kind of get your head around at the time.
yeah. It's so weird. It's just the weirdest. It's like you're born somewhere and somehow you owe fealty
Yeah,
just because you were born there. That's
yeah,
never made sense to me.
yeah.
But, you know,
Has that sort of carried? So have those sort of feelings carried through into into your music, into the sort of lyric writing, as you say, with the military, with the visuals and things like that.
yeah, absolutely. I think you can, we did print all the lyrics. We include all the lyrics. We want people to connect with the lyrics because they're
Mm,
important to us. But
yeah,
yeah, I think it's not overt, but they're definitely, if you dig into it, you can see, we are talking about that. It could be
Mm.
a lot of the lyrics are double or triple entendres, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you could there it's in there. It's
I
definitely
do
in there.
I do love that as well, where I mean you can get kind of some lyrics and some bands that are very explicit about, sort of what it's about, but where there's
Mhm.
I like stuff where there's that, okay, you can either, interpret it for yourself or and think I guess a lot of people will think, okay, how does this apply to my sort of life? And I guess
Yeah.
there is that. I don't know, is there whether there's a knack to kind of writing that, or if it just kind of comes from the heart.
Uh, my lyrics kind of a lot of times start as just gibberish that
Mm,
shapes into words. And sometimes I'll not know what they mean
yeah,
until I like it's bizarre. It's sometimes
yeah.
they just kind of happen and then I'll be like, oh my God, that could mean this. Whoa. Like receiving message. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. I
yeah,
just sometimes I'm writing about something stupid and it turns out to be something really like, deeper than I
yeah.
realized. So
Do you know, with when I started doing my sort of graphic design, and I kind of worked out what my kind of vibe was, what I really liked, and then I'd be kind of doing stuff, and I I'd like kind of design something, and I was like, "Ah, no, that doesn't work. It's like I don't know what
yeah,
it is, but it's just not there. And you go through like these different iterations, try different things, and it's like, it's not working. You
yeah,
go away, come back, and then I'd just do something,
yeah,
and it's just like just like visually, yes,
yes.
that's. Now everybody else may think it's shit, but just for me, I like see
But
it,
it's
and
what
it's
you
like
wanted.
that.
It's what you needed to
That's
express. And it's there and it came
exactly,
out and you see your vision has
yeah,
something tangible. Yeah.
yeah. And it's really
That's
weird
how I
how
feel that
how
way too. Yeah.
yeah. I
Hmm.
just feel, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, when that it's hard to put your finger on what you don't like about it as
Yeah.
well. I don't know if you
Yeah.
have the same kind of thing.
All the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like and the weird thing is I would never like show people things like that, but then I'm like maybe other people would like this, but I'm
yeah,
not gonna release it because it just doesn't fit what I was trying to do. And
yeah,
so but I think that's why I feel really happy with the Canary because everything came together like that. It was like
yeah.
all these little happy accidents, like designing the cover art and everything, all
Mm,
of that, a lot of that was like I never intended to do the collage the way I did for the
yeah,
cover.
yeah, yeah,
But when it started to happen, it just started just I was just in a flow state and it just came out and I was just getting more and more excited and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I
mm,
think also this has been a good um project, this whole project, I feel like all the stuff that I've randomly learned throughout my life has actually come in useful for various
right.
stages of
Oh,
doing this.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah, because I'm very much like a hobbyist, I guess. And sometimes I think, oh, I don't know if I'll ever really find a use for this skill, or like I've abandoned this.
Yeah,
Like I went to fashion school and I know how to sew. And I'm like, I never, I kind of put that aside for a while. And recently I've been using that skill a lot more, like making um merch and also working on
yeah.
costuming and stuff. So
I mean, I think that's great to do that. I was watching, for example, I was watching like a video of they're a UK band, and one of the members was doing some merch and basically kind of making their own merch, like using like an air spray gun, like
that's
on.
so funny. We were just talking about
Ah,
doing
really?
that.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
how funny. That's
and
weird how that synchronicities like that. But yeah, we were literally just saying we should just have an airbrush at our merch booth and
yeah,
do like live
I think that's such a good
airbrush.
idea
Yeah,
because
I
it's
do
it's
too.
like it's unique. Everybody
Hmm.
gets it. It's not the it's different to, kind
Yeah,
of
it's one
buying
of a
one off the
kind.
websites, one of a kind, and
Yeah.
they see you doing it there. I think that's just such a good idea. So I think it's brilliant that
Yeah.
you're using those kind of skills that you learned, and it's funny, isn't
Hmm.
it, that those things that you think, okay, when am I ever going to use that again?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'll never use algebra again, but
Yeah.
it's like, that kind of fashion stuff. I mean, that's brilliant because I do think that actually, kind of like with music, the merch is like just this kind of like important part of it. I mean, I know
Yeah.
financially it's big for musicians, but just as
Yeah.
a real, kind of nice thing to have. Have you got a visitor there?
I have a dog here. Yeah.
I did one podcast actually, and the it was Lizzie, and she was in the car with her dog, so the dog was at
Nice.
like sort of center stage.
Nice.
So good.
My buddy wishes he was center stage right now.
I bet. Yeah, that's what. So I mean, maybe we could talk about like that transition from kind of band manager going into sort of jet cemetery,
Yeah.
and how that kind of happened, and kind of what you were sort of feeling to kind of get into that.
Well, yeah, and I know to a lot of people it seems like an abrupt jump
Mm,
from going into like industry like, manager PR side
yeah,
to actually being a writer and performer.
yeah,
For me, yeah, it is, I mean, it is different, of course, like being on stage now rather than being a manager. But
yeah,
at the same time, I was producing records for other people. I was doing vocals on records and in the studio. And I was writing the whole time, but I just never
mm,
put anything out.
mm,
I wrote like probably two whole other records that I don't know, maybe you'll revisit some of the songs. And I actually really
amazing.
like them, but they just
Yeah,
they weren't cohesive enough for me to really want to call it a project. And
mm,
I had also had like an issue of a computer crashing and losing a lot of the like raw
right,
files. And so yeah,
yeah,
that kind of happened. But I I think I feel like everything's happening at the right time when it was supposed to. But
mm,
yeah, I think what happened was at one point I got sober and
yeah,
then the pandemic happened like shortly after that. And
yeah,
I went into therapy and
mm,
realized I had artistic trauma about performing. And so I just wanted to step out of the shadow because I realized I needed to write music and I
mm,
needed to release music because I had a lot to say
yeah,
and a lot to get out, I guess. I don't want to be like
mm,
preachy, but like just for my own self, I needed to literally release music. And
mm.
um
But sorry, Lars, was
yeah,
that artistic trauma? That was the kind of the need to perform.
the artistic trauma was like, bad teachers and
Okay, right. Oh yeah.
like bad moments on stage
Oh, I know
and
what you mean. Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like they're just
Yes.
random stuff along the way that blocked me.
Got you.
And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so like I just kind of started addressing those blocks and
Mm,
yeah, just got into a state where I suddenly once you release those blocks, it's like a dam breaks. And it's like I
yeah,
had
yeah.
all this wealth of art that had just been bottling up. And I'm just like,
Wow.
now when I go and sit in the studio to write, I think I've learned to take care of myself more to keep that like well full. And
Yeah.
so now when I go to write, it's just like a joy and I can like let things out. And yeah,
Do,
it's just
do, do, do,
it's gotten suddenly easy when it was just so hard for so long.
do you have, kind of practices to kind of keep that well full and to help you kind of release it?
Yeah, some of my practices are mostly keeping like a really ritualistic kind of schedule of like self-care.
Right.
Um I think, I do like yoga in the morning, maybe even just like 10 minutes.
Mm, mm.
I just almost have to do that for my body and mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then in the evening, I have just like a whole wind down process. And so I
Mm,
really try to keep those strong, even when I'm traveling, touring, all
yeah.
that. I try to just at least like find those like anchors, or
Yeah.
else I do kind of enter this state of like not, I don't want to say like mania, but just like not being grounded, you
I
know?
I know I know what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
So yeah, that and just trying to not get uh in a state of where you're going from working to just detaching, you know?
Mm.
And I read recently like that we waste our flow states on doom scrolling, like a lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
do, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Um, and so like putting down my phone and just trying to do something artistic, even if I'm tired, like it's time that I could be spending doing something, even if it's just 5 minutes of something.
Yeah.
So trying to be creative.
Yeah. I mean, I know I also hear you with like with the with the drinking as well, because I think you're what about 6 months, 9 months ahead of me and Saskia, in
Yeah,
terms of
I
when
think
you
it
like when you
was,
stop drinking.
we're about at
But
7 years.
yeah, so
Yep.
I was December 2019, so then end of this year
Yeah.
I'll be seven
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like yeah, I kind of like learned to I guess trust my judgment more.
Hmm.
um
Oh,
with
definitely.
a kind of clearer head,
Yeah.
but it's interesting what you say about those kind of like morning practices as well. So there's one thing that's like when you kind of I found when I stopped the big stuff, it's like okay, there's this immediate kind of lifting and things like okay, I feel lighter in my mind and feel like more alert, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then when you're living with that, that becomes your norm. That becomes the level that you're kind of living your life at. And then
Yeah.
if you then you kind of build these sort of practices, like I mean, I've recently started doing a bit more like Tai Chi, which is really kind of concentrating
Hmm.
slow, and I'm really into the sort of the slow, deliberate, really kind of like focus and concentrate your mind. And then when you don't have that, like you say, if you're out traveling and you don't do those sort of things, you start to feel kind of foggy again. Even though you're not drinking, you still feel like a little bit kind of foggy, and like, ooh,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's amazing. Like I find just the effect that those, like you say, just 10 minutes doesn't have to be that long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the effect that they have on you.
Deep breathing. I think yeah, Saskia, your partner Saskia has her yoga practice really
Mm,
helped me understand, especially understanding like decolonized yoga,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is real yoga.
yeah.
And but the breath, the act of breathing, we do it unconsciously all the time, but
Mm,
when you really put the focus on your breathing, you realize that your whole world can shift in one breath if you just let
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so that focus, that grounding, that going into your intuition,
yeah. Mm,
reaching into your intuition,
yeah.
that just clears my mind. I have so much chaos in my mind and
Mm,
I have to empty it. Like it's just like I have to dump it out and scrub it out. And
yeah.
if I don't do that, it just gets too crazy in there.
And I think you're right. It can just be kind of like a short bit, a short amount of time, but just to almost like say to you, yeah, it's still there. It's kind of
Yeah.
still there. It's just like that kind of like attachment almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
That really kind of helps.
Yeah.
So going with, I mean, obviously, like Jet Cemetery, you did with TaSz, and I know TaSz has been incredibly, supportive and, instrumental in all of this. But I mean, what have been the kind of the major, I guess, kind of things that you've needed to, you know, to make this into what it is now?
Well, I think TaSz has really grown as a musician to the point where he can actually compose
Yeah,
every other element basically of the music. And
yeah,
what he tends to compose various parts, then I'll come in and I'll be singing, and so we'll work into new parts. We'll find different parts,
mm,
and then I'll kind of do some of the arrangement at the end if I need to just fit, verses and choruses and bridges. But I
yeah,
mean, he just has gotten to the point where he can write all the other parts, and then we go into the studio and add the
mm.
little fairy dust at the end. But yeah, I mean, we've both grown already so much as
I
musicians just
bet.
doing this
Yeah.
project. Yeah, having to really compose music because there's a lot to it. There's a lot to this music.
I mean,
And yeah.
sorry, no, go on.
No, 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 it's good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that this must have been like incredible for you both, you know, to do this together and to kind of, you know, grow together. And you know that perhaps that, you know, even like, you know, kind of doing artwork, doing merch, and the visuals, you know, the composition, you're kind of doing everything. I guess. I mean, I guess, you know, you're kind of like involved in the, you know, in the production as well, even though you might not actually be doing it, but involved in it, you know,
Mhm.
and just kind of doing all those different things, just so kind of exciting, right?
It's really fun. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, all the art, like a lot of times he's very visionary, I think.
Mm, mm,
And so he gets these incredible visuals.
yeah.
Um, and we'll be like, I had this idea, and it'll just be so novel and exciting. And I'll be like, oh, wow. And I'm the like builder, so I
Mm,
execute when it comes to like graphic design and stuff. So I'll execute that. And so I think
yeah.
our art together has ended up being pretty cool
Mm,
because our styles mesh,
yeah.
and we have like we fill in where the other is lacking in a lot of different fields, I think. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we have built that like I guess unconsciously, what working together over the
Mm,
years, because when I was managing his old band, Blaxploitation,
yeah.
I did some design for them. I was not very good at but you have to start somewhere. But so like we did work
I bet you
together.
were good. I bet you were good.
It's awful. No, some of it's all right. But yeah. But yeah,
It is
we've been working together for a long time on stuff, so we've gotten better and better at collaborating.
it's funny when you do look back at stuff that you've created from some years ago. You know, you look back at this thing, and because I know, so I had uh he's a producer, and he actually is an artist in his own right, but he'd done a lot of songwriting for, you know, kind of, you know, some big musicians. I think Lana Del Rey done some writing, you know, for her, and he said he had like these like, and he sort of did his own creations, but he never released them. And he was looking back at them and do this was like from 2008, 2009. And he got these like little sort of folders that I can't remember if I've told you this, but he had these little sort of folders labeled dog shit one, dog shit two. And like, it was just basically stuff that he'd like written and didn't like. But he said he looked back at them, you know, kind of like 10 years later, and he was like, actually, do you know, that's not too bad. Actually,
Right.
it's not as bad as I thought. You know, sometimes there's a time and a place for things.
Yeah. I think most of the time, like when I look at my past works, I'm like, wow, that was good, but the execution was not
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But maybe,
like yeah.
well, maybe one day we're going to sort of see the light of day in some of these things. They become like
Maybe.
sort of archival stuff. Maybe.
I know. I know. I mean, there's some stuff that I would like to be released that I've worked on. And so we'll see how we can figure that out.
So how did it feel for the first live show that you did together?
Actually, the first live show we did was free week of 2025, so
Mm,
January. And we got an amazing show at Mohawk. We were on the
yeah,
inside stage opening for Night Drive, which is a really great local band.
yeah.
And then the outside stage was Ringo Death Star and like
Oh yeah.
a few other really cool bands. So it was like this amazing, like completely sold out, packed show.
Yeah.
And you think like your first show is going to be like empty room, and it was packed. And
Mm,
so that was a lot for
yeah.
sure. And when I look back, I'm like, wow, I was nervous. I didn't think I performed very well, but the feedback was really good. And
Mm,
so, I think at first I was like, nobody knows our songs, no, it's hard to just really put your foot in the door. But
mm,
I think I was worried that like people would be like, oh, Lars is a manager. Like, I don't know what they're doing, like as
yeah.
trying to do all this music. But it really wasn't like that at all. Like all our friends were just like incredibly supportive and they all showed up for our first show. Like it was really sweet. And
Yeah.
so it went really well.
This
Yeah.
is a really interesting one. What you say there about kind of you think people are going to be thinking that I'm a band manager, and I've had similar kind of things where it's like I think people have talking about, and this is how your identity sort of shifts. I think I think it's sort of
Yeah.
related to that about that Giles is this. And he does this, and this is how we see him. So they have this
Right.
kind of like idea of who you are, of what
Yeah.
what your identity is, and then it's like, okay, well, if I do something completely different, what are people going to think? It's like,
Yeah.
well, he doesn't do that.
Right.
That exact same thing that you're
Yeah.
saying, and it's so much in your mind.
And
It's
you're
such a
boxing
head
yourself
fuck.
in. Yeah.
Totally.
Over like your perceived opinion, like
Yeah,
stuff that may not even be real. Like
absolutely.
nobody really thinks about you enough. And if they do, like that's
Yeah,
weird anyway. So like
yeah,
um
totally. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just like I think at one point I finally maybe after like our I think I was ready. I was ready for the change from the beginning.
Mm,
I think I cut off all my hair and just was like,
yeah.
let's do this. And so yeah, it's
Do
just
you think?
like I just am ready to be different, a different person. If it means I'm a different person to people, which I mean, people have said that they're like, you're like a different person. And I'm like, well, that's okay because
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah,
I was a struggling, recovering addict for a
yeah,
while. And so I needed to like get away from that
yeah.
identity as well. So
Do you think? I mean, there's a few things. I mean, do you think like sort of cutting your hair was like kind of symbolic of that? That it's like I want to present a like this sort of a new identity almost, or just something that represents a different me.
I didn't do it like intentionally. I
Mm.
kind of did it because my hair, I dyed it too much and I just needed to
Okay,
cut
right.
it off.
There's me reading so much into stuff. I'm like, just
No, but it
calm
definitely,
yourself
as soon
down.
as I did it, I was like, I feel like totally renewed. And like, I
Yeah.
stopped, doing bleaching my hair. So
Right. Yeah.
that was, yeah, in some sense, like embracing my natural hair color and things like that. It's like more just being comfortable with myself, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess this sort of fits with kind of like Buddhism, I suppose, doesn't it? The idea of impermanence.
Mhm.
We're not, we aren't permanent, things aren't permanent, and it's like an
Yeah.
ever kind of like evolving, which I
Yeah.
guess in like the Western world is not, is harder for us to kind of grasp that sort of concept because we get kind of tied into certain like we're talking about certain identities, how we see people. It's like, oh, they've always been that, and
Yeah.
we aren't like that, and especially when we're
No.
living in a world that is so changing so quickly as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you can survive by staying the same. It doesn't
Yeah.
make
I
sense.
mean, that is like isn't it kind of a capitalist mindset? It's just
Yeah.
like you are what you do. And
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
what you what you own owns you. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think now I'm in this state of I want to be in flux and I want to make these like quantum leaps every
Yeah.
time. I'm ready to throw myself into every new opportunity and experience and not live. I have been so afraid of
Mm,
of doing every like anytime I get like a new opportunity, I'm like, my fear could totally torpedo this, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not going to let it. I'm going to just go and throw myself into it. I'm going to take care of my body and
Yeah.
not let myself get sick from the stress and
Yeah.
just take all the opportunities that I possibly can.
Well, I guess yeah, again, it's like comfort zones, isn't it? And you've already taken a massive step out to do jet symmetry, and
Hmm.
then it's like, okay, how am I going to step out of my comfort zone again? And
But once it starts going,
yeah,
all the conception of it is like is over in
yeah,
some ways because like it exists now and it starts to have like a life of its own. And
mm,
so then you have
mm.
to like go with it.
You got to go with it.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and then you have to make decisions about like what direction will that take me? I don't know if I want to go in that direction. And you have to think about like what each opportunity, what direction that'll take you
yeah.
in. And that's scary too because you're like, "Oh my God, what if I make the wrong decision?" And but
So, so yeah, actually, so this is an interesting point. So which way does your brain kind of work with that with though when you're making those decisions? Do you tend to sort of analyze things, or are you more instinctive?
I usually do go with like my gut feeling.
Yeah,
I do analyze things, but I think sometimes um a lot of times I really do just go with my gut.
yeah,
And I want to be excited about everything I'm doing.
mm,
So that's the other thing is like I don't want to play a show I'm not like extremely excited about.
yeah,
Uh, yeah. And there's and I want new things because I think there's like a path that exists that people take, and that may not be what I need to do. Like there's like a certain path for different genres of music. Like, oh, you go and you play this place, and then you play this, and then you play this, and you play this.
mm, mm,
And yeah, those opportunities are really awesome, but we also want to define ourselves as trying to do something different, especially since we don't drink. We really
yeah,
want to break away from that like selling alcohol and giving all your money to Live Nation and Ticketmaster
yeah, yeah,
route.
yeah.
So we are looking at playing in more different spaces like
Different
art
spaces. Yeah,
galleries
yeah,
and just even house shows, whatever it is um that we can do that we feel supports the world we want to live in.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's really great to do that. I think that's
Yeah.
properly, kind of living your life by, your values really,
Yeah.
and taking a stand against stuff that you believe is wrong.
Yeah. And I mean, we can't really do that all the time because we do have to
Yeah,
like take the opportunities of playing with certain artists that we admire and respect. And it's so hard to break away from
yeah,
that monopoly of
it
of
is.
Live Nation Ticketmaster.
I was talking actually to this is going back a few years to the former drummer with Big Joni. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We met them. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Mhm.
so I know them all. I know
Yeah, they're great.
Estella. really, really well, the bass player with Big Journey. But it was Chardine, their old drummer, and she
Yeah,
was
I remember
saying
Joe.
about, yeah, so she was saying about about this kind of pragmatism that you have to have as musicians, where you are living by your values. The band ethos is its values, but there
Yeah,
has to be a pragmatism, which is like, we use Fender guitars, for example. We might not like Fender as a company, but
right.
we have to use them to be able to get the message across about what we believe in about the capitalist system, about
Yeah,
decolonization. So you're right, you can't be um purists,
yeah.
100% of the time, but
But you
pragmatists
could buy your Fender guitars on a used
on a
site,
used
you
site.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that I completely understand what they're talking about. And so you just have to try to make the most ethical decisions you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And
And
how's that?
yeah.
Sorry, go on. I was going to say
And
how.
the more clout you have like as an artist, the more you can start asking for those changes, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna turn the blinds off because the sun is coming right through here.
Nice,
Just
I
give me
see
just
that. Very illuminating.
this anyway. There we go. That's a little
I
bit
just
better.
raised my chair because it was like really
Oh.
low. I was like, why am I so short right now?
Um. Yeah. So that kind of process of like finding different venues to play. How? I mean, is that tough?
I
Or is
we
this like
just
kind of like you starting the process of this?
we're kind of starting this.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we've never asked for any shows yet. We've just kind of reviewed the offers that we've received and
yeah,
chosen when and where we want to perform based on that and our writing schedule and
yeah,
other factors, obviously work and TaSz's other band,
yeah,
Fuck Money. And
yeah.
but yeah, now we're starting to really think about it since I do think we're starting to have a little more of a following that might be interested in showing up for these um more unique
Hmm.
events. So yeah, we're thinking about that, and we're working on engaging with the community and seeing like what kind of new spaces are happening and
Yeah.
figuring out like where we want to go with that.
I remember I did I did a an article um actually I've just done their website actually. It's the one that I referred to, Gewalt in Berlin. And their last album, they had an artist to do the art, and it's very distinctive, like white with this big uh like daubed red letters, so
Hmm.
the album title just like kind of like scrawled.
Hmm.
And the artist did an exhibition at this really kind of cool place in Berlin, and again like white walls with and it wasn't just the album artwork, it was other artwork, but it was the same
Yeah,
kind of vibe to it. And
that's
Gewalt
really cool.
played like an album launch party there, when they did
That's
that, they
amazing.
played a set, and those sort of things. I just thought, wow, that just looks so good.
That's what we're kind of the new, the direction of where we want to go as we work on the
Mm,
second
mm,
record is integrating everything like our merch, doing unique merch, doing like really like an art
yeah,
installation of the record
yeah,
where we showcase, we're both into fashion and
mm,
um showcase fashion, visual art,
yeah,
our own art and art of our friends whose vision, works with what we're doing.
yeah,
And yeah, just working on how we can incorporate all of that into something unique and cool and that's like a piece that we can really TaSz, is doing his cinematography too. So like a
mm,
space, like creating a space that we can then also record and create a piece on and just
yeah,
creating like this whole almost like just a whole lore, I guess, of the record.
I think that's really great. I
Yeah.
love that idea. I just think it's so cool.
I love it because it gives me a place to just completely escape to, because you're creating like
Yeah.
a world. And um I'm really into like fantasy and dystopian stuff. It just gets me really excited to like create these worlds. Like I think for a long time I wanted to write a book, but then I
Mm,
feel like, you know, maybe that's not really how I'm supposed to express these ideas. It's more creating this like soundscape and then the visual accompaniment. And then maybe a book will come at some point, but like it
yeah.
almost, I think I finally found like the like aesthetic that I was kind of going for. And so we're just going to keep like leaning into it.
What I love and what kind of keeps kind of striking me with you is the kind of like the imagination that you have. It's almost like unlimited. You know, there are yes, you have your, you know, kind of like sort of ideas and kind of visuals and music that kind of speaks to you, but also but just in terms of the creative imagination, there's kind of like so much, just even just listen to you talking now, there's kind of so much going on and so much imagination that's kind of coming out there that you're willing to put into the project.
Yeah, I do feel like I just there's this whole world that I'm really that's like almost
Yeah.
like parallel realities that we exist in, and that TaSz and
Mm,
I both, we've shared dreams, and we've had, not to get too trippy or anything, but we see like we're forming this like landscape and escaping into this world and
mm,
like trying to see what comes out of it, because to me it's real. And um I've heard people say that, like Tolkien said about Lord of the Rings, like this is a place, this is the story, the people are real, and I'm just translating into
yeah.
English. And I mean, I really do feel like that. I know that's strange and trippy, but it does kind of feel like that, like this exists. And if it's just in my mind, I don't really know if like what the difference is at that
Yeah.
point. Like this reality, um, like this whole thing we're doing right now could just all be a simulation. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so
mean, in a way,
I
it's
like
kind
to
of.
explore that place.
I mean, in a way, it's that's you know exciting as well because it's like it's I guess kind of like undefined in some way which way it's going to go because you are leaving it in some way to kind of find its own way.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
it's you know you have your ideas, but then there is this kind of power almost that's allowing it to move around and sort of sh shape shift.
yeah. I mean, it's weird. It's like it should be safe because it's not real, but it also feels
Mm,
like, what am I going to find around like these corners and these,
yeah,
or going into these abandoned buildings, and like
yeah,
what's in there? And then I
yeah,
remember like a nightmare I had as a child, and there was like an alien chasing me around this place or something.
yeah,
And then of course I read a lot, so I feel like I do a lot of the books I read kind of start to play into my imagination
yeah.
and create that reality too. So, you
I
know,
think
yeah.
I
We
think
have to be careful what we take in. I think
yeah.
we have to be really conscious about what we take in, because
Do you
it,
mean
it shapes our
information that we
reality.
take in?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Information, even music, like I just try
Mm,
not to listen to too much music that I find to be not helpful for my mental
mm,
state, like, or
mm.
that doesn't give me the right writing impulses. Like, I don't know. It's
Has
just,
has that
yeah.
changed? Has that changed for you? I mean, you know, from I don't know, so before you started this project, or even during Jet Cemetery, has that feeling
Like
sort of evolved for you?
like musical influences.
Or just being more aware of what you listen to?
I think that changed for me when I think maybe about a while ago,
Mm,
an ex-bandmate, had said something like, "Oh, well, I don't listen to any music. I just write music."
mm,
And I was like, that's just not true because everywhere you go, there's music playing. So what
yeah,
you're saying is you don't consciously take
consciously.
anything in. And
Right.
I was like, and then I started thinking about my own life, and I'm like, yeah, I have to be really careful about
Yeah,
what I'm putting what I'm putting in. And I stopped watching the news. I mean, I
yeah,
do read it on, through the internet mostly,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, just kind of get a grasp on what's going on. And yeah, sometimes I get a uh
Distraught.
little
Yeah,
distraught and a little preachy
yeah,
and all that. But
yeah.
um at least, not watching mainstream media and stuff like that as much as possible. Um
Well, this is interesting because I was
yeah,
reading for a long time I followed this don't laugh at me, but a think tank. And normally when somebody says a think tank, you just like send you into like a tailspin of horror, but they're actually really good. It's called the Institute of the Future. They're out in California somewhere, and it's thinking. I've got a lot of my kind of thinking from this about how we're going to live our lives in the future. And one thing that one of the like kind of head honchos wrote about was a and they're really good. They're talking instead of about universal basic income, they're talking about universal basic assets, about how we need to
yeah,
kind of give, all these kind of public assets, this public infrastructure back to the public, and stop being,
yeah,
excluding people from from parks and from beaches and this kind of stuff. But one
right.
thing that they said was about critical ignoring that which is basically what you're talking about, about sort of a very conscious filtering of what you listen to, what you
Yeah,
read, what you take
yeah,
in.
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's
Yes, I agree. And I think they'll be like, okay, and I know that this will hurt people's feelings. I don't watch reality TV.
mm,
I, except I do watch Alone, which I don't think counts because it's like a survival show. Maybe it does count. Maybe
right.
that's my guilty indulgence, my voyeuristic indulgence. But I don't watch reality TV. I've noticed that it does not do good things to people's brains, about the way they interact with other people.
Yeah,
And so I don't do that. I just think, yeah, I think like in being in person, I am an introvert, so this is like hard for
yeah,
me, but just trying to be with my community,
yeah,
support each other, being in the neighborhood, being involved, going to the farmers market,
yeah,
interfacing with people, um,
yeah,
talking to everyone at shows, going to support people,
yeah,
when they play. It's like all the stuff that we really need to do. We need community, and we need to this hyper individualism. I know
yeah,
you probably have the same thing in the UK, but
yeah.
in America it's so bad. I mean,
It's rampant. Yeah,
it's really gotten out of control. Um, and now you don't even have to leave your house if you don't want to, because you can have anything delivered to your doorstep.
yeah,
And so it's really hard not to fall into the convenience culture of that.
yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
I think that I think those ideas of your kind of immediate community,
Hmm.
and kind of people that are in that and making that work for you
Yeah.
as as a way to kind of navigate through life, especially when as an introvert. And I totally hear you. I mean, that's I am as well. And it's weird actually because even going to some there's no real pattern to it, but some gigs that I go to when there's just like a ton of people there,
Mhm.
and it can be I can feel completely safe in it. which is
Hmm.
easier for me as a kind of like as a sort of white man. I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
but sometimes when they're really busy, I'm just like a bit, like a little bit edgy.
Yeah.
In fact, I had it
Yeah.
just the other week. I went to one. I was like, it's fine, but I'm just a little bit on edge.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that when you are living you can't control that at gigs and stuff, but when you're out at living your life, that kind of community around you, that safe community is so important these days, I think.
Yeah. I do feel like I've been really lucky to have really amazing neighbors
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
in Austin. And that's one of the reasons we've stayed here is that we have just wonderful neighbors, our friends Rosie and Sale, and
yeah,
they've brought us medicine, like Eastern medicine and indigenous medicine
yeah,
that we never would have found if we just stayed holed up in our house.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and my dear friends across the street who are also artists, Alicia and Dylan,
yeah.
they've been so influential in this, in kind of building like our world because I
Mm,
do feel supported. I feel like I have
yeah.
my community and it makes it seem like going through what we're going through right now, that there is hope because
Yes,
there are
yes.
people who are going through it and who see the same things you do and who are willing to like support you through it and you support them back and we can dream of something better and we can work towards something better and like have our own little pocket of the world where we're
Mm,
doing things the way we want to see the rest of the world.
yeah. I do
And
think
so
I do.
have that hope. It's like it's been helpful for me to not just completely spiral and just write a bunch of dark and hopeless music too.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've long thought that you know I'm just thinking about what you said. I've long thought about like our physical environment. We're in the middle of London. That it's so important and kind of it can influence you, but it can influence you in good ways and bad ways.
Mhm.
And but then just listen to what you're talking about. Then when you add in the not just that kind of physical environment of what you see around you, but actually the people that are there as well,
Mhm.
and that are in that is yeah. I mean it kind of sounds obvious, doesn't it? But I think, like you say, where you can get stuff where you don't have to go outside of your house these
Yeah.
days, you can still survive by not going out and not seeing anybody for months if you want.
Yeah.
Um, Getting back to that kind of like both the physical environment and the community environment, I think it can't be really overstated today.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of goes hand in hand with the resurgence of physical media and like
Yeah.
and
Mm.
uh, and having things that you can hold. And I'm not saying a bunch of crap, that you buy on Amazon, but I'm talking about real
Yeah.
art that you
Mm.
can that you can give and receive. And I think they don't want to say they, but there's been a big push for consumers to enter this like subscriber era and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
ever really own anything, but just kind of float along like, oh, this is what you're watching next, and this is this, instead of like me having my VHS collection and being
Yeah.
like, hey, I really would like to watch uh Blade Runner on VHS right now
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
put that on and no one knows I'm watching it. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Like there's no
Yes.
record of
That's
it.
that's true. That's very
Right?
true, isn't it? Yeah.
Nobody knows I'm listening to my vinyl.
It's interesting.
There's no algorithm surrounding my record player.
Yeah. Do you know, I mean, I know it's like a well-trodden path, but I just remembered, and it sounds like somewhat nostalgic, which I guess it is, and nostalgia is an interesting thing about how it can be a positive, but also a negative. But in a positive way, for me, those sort of physical elements, particularly where music's concerned, but also books as well. Physically sort of holding it, and I think you have a deeper connection with. I mean, your touch. It's like one of
Mhm.
it's one of your kind of core things, isn't it?
Mhm.
And being able
Yeah,
to kind of touch something, you feel something, then you can visually kind of get into it, and like
yeah.
record sleeves and the
Yes.
artwork and the you used to have
Yeah.
inserts and
I love
posters and
that.
and
I
all that
just
kind of
love
stuff. Love
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just there's something about holding something tangible that we've kind of lost, and I do think some things go full circle back to back to how it used to be, but
Yeah.
I think there's something in that. I think we kind of miss those sort of things, you know.
Yeah.
In
I agree.
favor of just efficiency of like doing everything without having to touch anything.
Mhm.
It was all about like this kind of capitalist efficiency processes and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And
And I get that, but I also now feel like it's I'm being manipulated by it, you
yes,
know?
yes, that's the point. Yeah,
It
you're
was
right.
fun until I realized that it was, you
Shit.
know, yeah, that it was governing
Basically,
my reality. And so that's when I started to realize I needed to step away, step back from everything I do, creating a paper trail and an algorithm.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a few very scary movies and I was of about it. You know, I think
Yeah.
there were like a couple like the Cambridge Analytica one, the
Oh
social
yeah.
yeah, and I was just like, okay, this yeah, no, that's gonna be a no for
I'm
me.
gonna I'm gonna
Like,
gonna have a
get
look
out
around
of
the
here.
house at at stuff that
Yeah.
needs to go. So I guess with the so we've got the like record coming out tomorrow
Mhm.
as
I
we're
have it right
recording this.
here.
Look at that amazing artwork. Yeah, that proper collage. Love it.
Thank you.
That's so good.
Proud of it.
Um, it's going to be out there, and how are you thinking about the future? What's sort of coming next? I mean, I hate to sort of take anything away from the record release, but just sort of thinking,
Oh, yeah, no.
what are you thinking of next?
I mean, so next we are going to we're going to play a little out of town. We're going to LA, we're going to Seattle, we're going to Portland for
Amazing.
sure. And those dates will be announced
Yeah.
soon. And we are gonna start writing
Mm,
again, begin the writing process for the next record. Um, maybe get a new song. Of course we do want to tour the songs from the record, but we
yeah.
also I think we have been going a little bit more in the direction of doing dance music.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we'll still write our like or kind of anthemic like
Yeah. Yeah.
ethereal songs too. And like the record is like half dance music and half kind of ethereal dream pop music. And
Yeah.
um maybe the next one will be more dance music just because we do want to like increase our repertoire of that because I
Mm,
love how engaged the audience is with
yeah.
that kind of music. It's just fun. And we found a really good like group of people who are doing that are really
Yeah.
on the same page. And so we're probably going to explore more of that. Like Taz really wants to do more. He has roots like in techno and
Mm,
freestyle and
of course. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
90s music. And so we want to just lean into that kind of
Amazing.
more. Yeah.
Well, so, I
And
mean,
I'm excited to do more like trippy vocals too. Not,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I think this is the kind of great thing about jet symmetry is that just by your kind of very nature, it's not rooted in or tied to what kind of one particular sort of style of music.
Mhm.
I think the way that you're writing it and kind of creating it is very open, which gives you those sort of opportunities to look at different styles and influences and bring those in, and it fits. It's not going to be like a massive surprise when you
No.
know produce something that's like something different to what you've done first time. And why stay with the same thing? You need to
Yeah,
evolve.
and I mean I think every song on the record, the current record sounds different
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, but it does sound like us and we'll just evolve that more. And yeah, we really want it to be more like a movie soundtrack than
Amazing. Yeah.
just a record
Yeah.
of a bunch of songs that have a similar
Yeah.
sound. And yeah, we want it to be like kind of a just a whole arc of music.
Which kind of gets sort of, yeah, sort of fits into your visual, ideals, sort of particularly like with TaSz having these like kind of strong visuals as well.
Yeah.
In his mind
Yeah.
that
And
that kind of
I was very influenced by it. And I know we talked about this while we were in London last, but
mm,
like Pink Floyd,
yes, yeah,
their world building, and that has always been a huge influence for me. Since I first started writing music, just like really having a cohesive piece. I want to do that even more with this next one. Now that we kind of understand Atmos and we
yeah,
understand more our composition, we want to just have this really cohesive album from start to finish. So I think that's something we'll be working on.
nice.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, I guess we can call it a day there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks so
I've had
much,
a
Lars.
I've had a great time
Oh, it's been
talking
so
to
good.
you. Thanks so much for having me. We just love what you're doing and
Oh, thank you.
what you and yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see your friends just thrive and do what they love
Isn't it
and
just?
make the art they love.
Yeah, back at you with that. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
And best of luck with the release.
thank you so much.